Welcome to this deep dive. We're taking a look at The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer.
Oh, this is a good one.
It is. It's a great book, and we're going to be trying to unpack some big ideas about how our minds work.
Okay.
And maybe how our minds are holding us back from some real happiness.
Yeah, what I think is really cool about Singer's work is that he takes all these, kind of big, heady spiritual concepts.
Right.
And makes them, pretty easy to understand.
Right.
He uses language that everyone can relate to and these vivid analogies.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it
really resonate.
Yeah, it makes it very accessible, and it almost feels like
Yeah.
you're having this conversation with someone really wise.
Right, like a wise friend.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the first concepts that he brings up is this idea of the inner roommate.
Uh-huh.
And have you ever experienced that?
Oh, yeah, constantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that voice in your head that just won't stop.
Right.
It's commenting on everything we do. It's judging everything.
Right.
It's like, why are you doing that?
Right.
Should you really be doing that?
Right.
And sometimes it's helpful, like don't touch that hot stove.
Right.
But a lot of times it's just this negative noise that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, and it can be exhausting.
Totally.
Right, because you're constantly like battling this, this internal struggle with this roommate.
Exactly. And the thing is, we don't even realize we're doing it half the time.
Right. It just becomes this background noise.
Right. Exactly. It's like, oh, this is normal to feel this way.
Right. Right.
But Singer's like, wait a minute. Is it though?
Right.
He really challenges us to kind of question that constant chatter and think like, what if this is the thing that's actually making us unhappy?
Yeah. So is he saying that we should strive to just be mindless?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, he's not anti-mind or anything.
Okay.
He just points out that the mind left to its own devices can really cause a lot of chaos in our lives.
Yeah. So if our minds are so powerful, why do we sometimes feel, almost trapped by them?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? And I think it's kind of like we've given our minds this impossible job.
Oh, okay.
Right, like make sure everybody likes you and make sure nothing bad ever happens.
Oh, wow.
And of course, the mind's like, all right, got to do this. So it goes into overdrive, right?
Right.
Constantly scanning for threats, analyzing every situation, coming up with all the worst case scenarios.
Right. It's exhausting.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
Just even thinking about all of that. It's like, how do we break free from this?
Well, I think Singer would say the first step is awareness.
Okay.
Like we need to actually start paying attention to our thoughts and recognizing when our inner roommate's kind of running the show.
So it's not about ignoring our thoughts or anything like that?
No, it's not about suppressing them or trying to force them to be positive all the time.
Yeah.
It's more about just becoming aware of them, Like watching a movie.
Okay.
You can get totally caught up in the story and the emotions,
Yeah.
or you can sit back and just observe, knowing it's just a movie.
Yeah. So we have a choice.
Exactly.
And how we're relating to all of it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to be at the mercy of all those thoughts and feelings.
And he also talks about samskaras. I always have trouble saying that word.
Samskaras, yeah.
What are they?
So samskaras, they're kind of like these little imprints left on our hearts from past experiences.
Okay.
And you can think of them as like these little energetic thorns
Okay.
that can cause pain when they get triggered.
Interesting.
Right. And it's not just negative experiences either.
Really?
Yeah, even positive experiences can create these samskaras, these thorns.
So, what? Give me an example.
Okay, so, imagine falling in love.
Okay.
It's a beautiful experience, right?
Right.
But it can also create a samskar.
Oh.
Because when that relationship ends, it can trigger that thorn and cause pain.
Okay, so it's not about avoiding the thorns or pretending that they're not there?
Right. It's more about, being aware of them.
Okay.
Feeling the pain that they cause, and then ultimately letting them go.
Letting go, that's a big one.
It is. And he uses this really powerful analogy of a house built for isolation.
Okay.
Imagine you build this beautiful house,
Okay.
but you're so afraid of being hurt.
Yeah.
You surround it with all these walls and barbed wire.
Right.
You end up feeling safe, but you're also completely isolated.
It's like we've built a prison for ourselves.
Exactly. And the way out isn't to build even higher walls. It's to start taking them down.
That's scary.
It can be. It can be.
To be vulnerable?
Yeah. It means opening ourselves up to the possibility of being hurt, for sure.
Right.
But also to the possibility of experiencing, deeper love and connection.
Okay. I see. It's like this trade-off.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's scary, but it's also how do we get to that freedom then?
Yeah. And I think that's where Singer's idea of unconditional happiness comes in.
Okay.
It's this idea that real happiness, like true happiness, it doesn't depend on what's going on outside of us.
Okay, so it's not about like getting the things that we want or avoiding the things that we don't want.
Right, exactly. It's
Right.
about finding this state of peace and joy within us that's not contingent on anything external.
I get that, but I'm also wondering, like, how do we deal with difficult emotions then?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because, we can't just ignore them, right?
Right, and Singer acknowledges that.
Right.
He talks about the importance of being comfortable with psychological disturbance.
Okay.
And that sounds kind of counterintuitive, right?
It does.
But he's basically saying that we need to, like, make friends with our inner turmoil instead of trying to run away from it.
So, like, befriend it.
Yeah, like sit down with it, have a cup of tea.
Wow.
Just acknowledge it's there instead of trying to pretend it doesn't exist.
Okay, so awareness is key.
Awareness is key, absolutely.
And then from there, we can start to make different choices.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's really interesting. I think we're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, yeah, so much more to unpack.
And we will in the next part of our deep dive.
I can't wait.
So we're back. And we're diving deeper into the untethered soul.
Deeper we go.
Deeper we go. And we've been talking about some pretty, profound ideas, right?
Profound.
About how our minds work and, all these things that might be holding us back from
Yeah.
experiencing this, true happiness.
Yeah, like what is happiness even?
Yeah, right. And in the last part, we talked about the inner roommate.
Right?
And all this mental chatter and how that can cause like so much anxiety.
Yeah, totally.
And we were talking about the samskaras, the thorns, and how they can really cause us pain.
Oh yeah, those thorns, they get you.
They get you. And then we were starting to talk about this idea of unconditional happiness.
Unconditional happiness, yeah.
But I think it raises a lot of questions,
Absolutely. Like, how do we actually do that?
Right.
How do we find that?
And if we're not supposed to, be attached to our thoughts and emotions, how do we deal with the tough stuff,
Yeah, the hard stuff.
The hard stuff.
The stuff that you don't want to deal with.
Right.
But you have to deal with.
Exactly.
Well, Singer says it's about being comfortable with psychological disturbance.
So, like, just be okay with the fact that things are going to be messy sometimes.
Yeah, like it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
Instead of trying to run away from those feelings or push them down, he's saying, like, lean into them.
Wow.
Actually experience them.
Like, sit with them.
Yeah, sit with them, let them be there.
And just, be present with them.
Yeah, be present with them, get curious about them.
Okay.
Instead of asking, like, what do I do about this anxiety or this fear?
Yeah.
Ask, like, who am I that's noticing this?
That's a shift in perspective.
It is. It's a big shift.
And I think it's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're not just identifying with all of that.
Right. We're separating ourselves from the thoughts and feelings.
Right. So how do we cultivate that?
Well, Singer talks about a lot of different practices,
Okay.
like meditation, conscious breathing,
Okay.
Things that can help us become more aware of what's happening inside of us.
So just being present.
Yeah, just being present.
With whatever's happening.
Exactly.
Instead of, getting lost in our thoughts about the past or the future.
Yeah, which is like what our minds do all the time.
Right. And this reminds me of the thorns.
The thorns.
They're back. They always come back.
They always come back.
And, we were talking about how they get triggered by certain experiences.
Yeah, and how we sometimes just keep picking at them.
Right. Like, we replay the situation over and over again in our minds, or we hold on to anger.
Yeah, and that just makes the pain worse.
And it does.
Right. So Singer's saying instead of doing that, let's remove the thorn.
But how do we remove the thorn?
Well, he says we need to acknowledge the pain, feel it fully, and then let it go.
But letting go can be really hard.
It can be. It can be really hard.
Especially when it's like something that's really been bothering us for a long time.
Yeah. But he says the more we resist, the more power we give it.
So it's like a paradox.
Yeah, it's like the more we try to control it, the more it controls us.
So we have to surrender.
Yeah, in a way, it's a surrender.
Okay, so we surrender to the pain.
We surrender to the pain. We acknowledge it. We feel it.
And then we let it go.
And then we let it go.
That's a process.
It is. It's a process. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Okay, so once we've let go of the thorns, then what?
Well, then we can start to experience more freedom, more peace, more joy.
So it's like we're clearing space for something new to emerge.
Exactly. And we become less reactive, less easily triggered by things.
Okay. So it's like we're building resilience.
Yeah. Emotional resilience.
And that allows us to experience life in a more, I don't know, balanced way.
Yeah. More balanced, more peaceful.
And, Singer talks about this idea of merging with the divine force.
Oh, yeah, the divine force.
That sounds kind of mystical.
It does sound mystical, right?
Yeah, like how do we even begin to understand that?
Well, he's saying it's not as far out as it sounds.
Okay.
Like the divine force isn't separate from us.
Okay.
It's not some external being we need to pray to.
Right. It's not out there somewhere.
Right, exactly. It's within us.
Okay, so it's like we're already connected to it.
Yeah, we're already connected to it. We just need to realize it.
And how do we realize it?
Well, he says one of the paths is through cultivating unconditional happiness.
Okay, unconditional happiness again.
Yeah, it keeps coming back to that.
It does keep coming back to that. So how do we do that?
He says it's about making a conscious choice to be happy, regardless of what's happening around us.
So it's a choice.
It's a choice.
Not a feeling.
Right. It's not just waiting for happiness to happen to us.
Okay.
It's deciding to be happy.
But that sounds really hard.
It can be. Our minds are wired to focus on the negative,
Right. We're always looking for problems.
Yeah, always looking for problems.
So how do we rewire our minds then?
He suggests things like affirmations, meditation,
Okay.
practices that help us focus on the positive.
So we're basically training our minds.
Yeah, we're training our minds to see the good, to appreciate the beauty around us.
Okay, so as we cultivate this habit of choosing happiness,
Yeah.
what happens?
Well, he says everything changes.
Really?
Yeah. The way we see the world, the way we interact with people, the way we experience life.
It's like we're putting on a new pair of glasses.
Yeah, exactly. And the world looks brighter, more beautiful.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and he uses this beautiful image.
Okay.
He says when you're coming from a place of love and acceptance,
Yeah.
every person you see starts to look like a beautiful flower,
Wow.
each with its own unique color, shape, and fragrance.
So we're seeing the beauty in everyone.
Exactly, and that changes everything.
It does. It changes how we relate to the world.
Absolutely. It's like we're seeing the world through the eyes of love.
Okay, so this path of unconditional happiness, it's not just about feeling good.
Right.
It's about something much deeper.
Yeah, it's about connecting to something bigger than ourselves.
And that's where it gets really interesting.
That's where the real journey begins.
And that's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back, and this is the last part of our deep dive into the untethered soul.
Last part, can you believe it?
I know. And, we've been talking about so many, big ideas.
Yeah, big ideas.
Yeah, the inner roommate and letting go.
Right.
And unconditional happiness. But I think, a big question that's coming up for me is,
Yeah.
how do we actually bring this into our everyday lives?
Yeah, that's the real challenge, right?
It is.
Like, how do we take these big ideas and make them practical?
Right, exactly. Because it's easy to talk about it.
Right.
But how do we actually live it?
Well, the good news is, Singer, he gives us some really practical tips.
Okay, good. So what are some of those tips?
Well, he says start small. Like, notice those little things, those little annoyances
Okay.
that trigger your inner roommate.
Okay, so what kind of annoyances are we talking about?
Well, someone cuts you off in traffic.
Right.
Or, the barista gets your order wrong.
Yeah, or your coworker takes your pen.
Exactly. And instead of getting all worked up about it,
Yeah.
he says, take a deep breath,
Okay.
relax your shoulders, and just let it go.
Easier said than done, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. It takes practice. But
Yeah.
that's the whole point.
Okay.
Like, we're training our minds
Right.
to not get hooked by every little thing.
So it's like we're building a muscle.
Exactly, like a freedom muscle.
A freedom muscle. I like that.
Yeah. Each time you let go, you get stronger.
And that reminds me, he talks about how that center of consciousness.
Yeah, that place of peace within us.
Right, that's always stronger than whatever is trying to pull us off center.
Yeah, like the energy that wants to pull us into that drama.
Right.
It can't compete
Right.
with that deep inner peace we have.
Okay. And I remember he used that analogy of someone pulling on your heart.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. And instead of resisting, you just kind of relax and let go.
Exactly. You just surrender to it.
Wow. Okay.
And you might get pulled 100 times,
Yeah.
but you just keep letting go.
It sounds, I don't know, almost like giving up.
I know can feel that way, but it's not.
Okay.
It's more like a conscious choice
Okay.
to not engage in that struggle.
Okay.
It's about reclaiming your peace.
Okay. So as we get better at letting go,
Yeah.
what happens?
Well, Singer says that all that energy that was trapped in those negative reactions, it starts to flow upwards.
Okay.
And it actually purifies and strengthens your center of consciousness.
Interesting. So it's like we're clearing space.
Yeah, like decluttering your mind.
Right, for something better. Okay, and I've definitely noticed that, in my own life. Like when I'm able to stay calm, like in the middle of a really stressful situation, it's like I'm able to, I don't know, access a different part of myself.
Yeah, you tap into that inner strength.
And that feels really good.
It does. It does.
Okay, so the more we practice this, the more resilient we become.
Exactly.
Okay, and he also talks about how we can remain centered even when things are really tough.
Yeah, like the stuff that would normally just knock you off your feet.
Yeah, and it's not that we won't feel anything.
Right, we're not trying to become robots.
Right.
It's about having that deep inner peace.
Okay.
That allows you to weather the storm.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's like we're building this inner foundation.
Yeah, like a strong foundation that can't be shaken.
That can withstand anything.
Exactly.
Okay. And he also talks about this idea of the ascent.
Oh, the ascent, yeah.
And how, when we let go of those lower energies, they actually become fuel for our growth.
It's like alchemy, right?
It is.
Turning lead into gold.
Yeah, taking those challenging experiences and using them.
Yeah, to learn, to grow, to become stronger.
And he also reminds us that, this is a journey.
Oh, yeah. It's a lifelong journey.
It's not like we're going to get there and then that's it.
Right. There's no finish line.
We're always evolving.
We're always learning, always growing, always letting go.
And there are going to be times when, we mess up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We fall back into old patterns.
It happens to the best of us.
But he said, be kind to yourself.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up.
Right, just pick yourself up and start again.
Exactly. Just keep going. Keep practicing.
But that's what it's all about, right?
That's what it's all about.
Okay, well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
The Untethered Soul is a truly, truly profound book.
It is. It's a game changer.
So as we wrap up, what's one thing you want our listeners to really take away from this?
I would say remember that true happiness, it comes from within.
Okay.
It's not about what you have or what you achieve. It's about who you are.
It's about that inner peace.
Exactly, that inner peace.
And it's not just about feeling good. It's about connecting to something bigger.
Connecting to that divine force within you.
Right. And recognizing that you have the power to create your own reality.
You have the power you always have.
Okay. Well, this has been amazing.
It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Untethered Soul.
Thank you.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep growing,
keep letting go,
and keep choosing happiness.